Hey, my name is Haley and this is the first tutorial I'm trying to make, so it might be in multiple parts. Today I'm going to be making one of the small potted plants that I made mainly for hanging in your car or in your closet. It has a little plant bud in it, which you can also add eyes to and make it, cute. But you can put like perfume, essential oils, whatever fragrance you want in your car or in your closet or, your bathroom, whatever you want. You can basically just infuse it with that and hang it. They're washable because they're just like a little stuffed ball, but we're going to be doing this with a 5mm hook. This is pretty average size hook to use with weight 4 yarn. This one does have a texture to it, which just adds little bits of color with whatever you make. But a little tip, if you take a lighter and just hold it over your project once you're done, you can gently melt off and smooth some of these fuzzy bits. Just be careful you don't get too close because it will, melt and set aflame the yarn. But if you want to take a screenshot, this is the pattern just for the pot. I'm going to make another part with the plant, showing how to make it, because there's different ways you can make the plants depending how you want the leaves to look, or if you want to add flowers, different colors. I mean, you can really do it however you want. Speaking of color, my nails are definitely pink from my hair dye, so we're just gonna ignore that. But here's the pattern. It's really simple if you're starting out crochet, because we're only doing single crochets for this project, which is the most kind of basic stitch. We're gonna be working in the round. But let's get started. All right, depending how new you are to crochet, you may know how to start a magic circle. There's a million different ways to do it, but this is how I'm gonna do it for this specific project. If you need a closer look, I would say check YouTube just for magic circle crochet, because there's so many ways that people prefer to do it. And I do change up how I do it depending on what I'm making. This method that starts with the 2 loops rather than starting with a chain that you go back into is better for projects that you're more concerned about unraveling in the center, especially with something like a hexagon cardigan. Those are a project for sure that I learned that I needed to use this technique just to have more length of the yarn, where there's less likely a chance that it's going to unravel. And something like this that's going to be, in a place like, again, I say I kind of make them mainly to hang in a car. If you're going to be washing it often, like to swap out different scents or whatever, you really want it to hold up. So again, starting with that magic circle, and we're just going to do 6 single crochets in this magic circle. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you pull the tail yarn that's going to cinch up one of those loops, and you're just going to pull the other end of that one. You're just cinching up the circle, and this tail, you're just going to work that in as you go. But now I'm going to slip stitch into that first chain. All right, slip stitch, and then chain 1, so that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a circle of 6, round 1. Round 2 is going to be 12. So to get from 6 to 12, you put 2 in each. So this next stitch, the first one in the row, I'm going to put 1, 2, and the next one I'm going to put 1 and 2, increase in the next 1, 2. I'm bad about using stitch markers. I usually don't use them, but if you're a beginner, I would definitely say, yeah, use a stitch marker, just because it's going to help you keep track of where you end and start in case you lose count. But I'm going to start by counting backwards with this last stitch I made. I know I'm getting up to 12, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So okay, 11, nope, yep, let's see, one more increase, if I can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so this is our last stitch. That's 12 with that slip stitch. All right, and our next row is to get 18, so I'm only going to increase in every other one. So again, you chain 1 just to get that height to build out, and then this is going to be just 1 single crochet, and then in the next stitch is where you increase. And so the last row was increase in each stitch. Now you increase in every other stitch. Can anybody else hear the slamming around? Like, I live in an apartment and I can just hear all my neighbors, like, doors slamming outside. All right, let me just go ahead and count how many I have. 1, 2, I think that's my slip stitch. So let me count backwards. Have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, so one more increase. Right, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I'm just going to single crochet instead of doing a slip stitch and chain 1, because now that I have 18 stitches all around, let's see, 1, 2, I'm just gonna put a single crochet in every stitch for 7 rows. And this isn't exact, it's really just as soon as you get to 18 stitches, that's your base. And then when you stop doing increases and just put 1 crochet in every stitch, 1 single crochet, it just starts building up the edges of the pot. So I'm gonna shut up for a second and just work this up. And I apologize if this is like super janky. I've literally never done a crochet tutorial. At the most, I made like a TikTok that kind of showed like kind of just pointing to a sweater I made, trying to describe how I did it. But this is just so easy. Again, you just make a flat circle for the bottom of the pot, and then you just build up the sides. And you can make it however big or small you want. If you want to change the shape of it, increasing or decreasing your stitches is going to change that. Just with whatever you're making, math and counting is usually the most important, but for little stuff, it's not always noticeable. Like there's probably spots in here where I just counted that slip stitch for height as a stitch because I mean it kind of fits. Like it, you know, you're just making the bottom of a pot. And one like tradition in crochet is, you know, if you don't put a mistake in your work, then your soul gets trapped or something. Like something. Like an old wives' tale of like try to intentionally put a minor mistake in your work. Otherwise you get trapped. I don't know. I feel like if I would haunt any of my things, it would be a sweater because those are my favorite thing to make, especially if it's something with a lot of color, or like if it's a new yarn that I haven't used before and like getting to see the different textures. But this is it so far. Also, again, if you're new to crochet or just trying to figure out how to start, I would definitely say go to Joann's or Michael's. They usually have pretty good sales, but there's also usually a pretty good variety. And you can get, like Walmart has stuff too, but usually their stuff is way overpriced. Or it's set, you know, at like a standard price, but craft stores always run sales. And if there's not a sale, there's a coupon that works on a regular priced item. When you're selling your work though, like I try to use the sales and discounts when I can, because again, I'm trying to make money with my work. But like sometimes yarn is $10 for a ball, sometimes you can get it for $3. It just depends on what type it is, what type of year it is, how much you need of it. Like usually on the label for the yarn, it's going to tell you, like, it'll have a picture of a hat and show like you need 1 or 2 to make a hat, or you need, you know, 8 for a blanket or 4 for a sweater or something. Like it'll tell you. And usually the label for the yarn, for most places, they'll either have a website full of free patterns, or sometimes the actual label on the yarn, the back of it will have a knit or crochet pattern. And usually it'll be like the picture. If the label has a blanket on it, it'll be like the pattern for that blanket. And then sometimes they also have, like, you know how when you would go to the store as a kid, they'd have those spots where you'd like pull the coupons out of the thing? Well, at craft stores, the main thing is patterns. So there will also just be little tearaway patterns of like, hey, do you want to make this baby blanket? Here's how. Because it's also basically advertising. Because it's like, you want to make this baby blanket, right? Like, you know, buy our yarn, buy our stuff, buy everything you need to make this baby blanket. I'm just kind of rambling because I'm trying to sew in this end and finish up this little pot. Again, it's so easy. Like in the pattern, I wrote to do like, you know, however many rows, but it's however big or small you want the pot. Before it got too big, I wanted to go ahead and sew in the end of this tail yarn. I split the yarn into, it's made up of 4 tiny strands, and I split it into 2, you know, and just tied a couple knots. And now I'm just weaving it back and forth in between other stitches, and then I'm gonna cut it. Doo-doo-doo. And I'm also going to take my lighter, and that little tuft where the yarn came out, I'm just going to fluff it a bit. There we go. And just press it with the side of the lighter and that's just going to be on the inside. I may make the edge a little bit longer, just finish up this row, and then we're going to add the straps. All right, so I did finish the round, and then once I had it to the size I wanted for the pot, I did a slip stitch and then just started chaining. I did about 30 to 35 stitches, just to get, you know, something that's long enough to put a bead on it and hang it wherever I want it. And then once I added this one, I folded the pot in half to find about a halfway point, inserted my hook into a stitch, and then just made another strap so that these are, you know, about the same length. Now I'm going to fold it in half the other way, and I'm going to make a strap here and here. So on the pattern, once you have the bowl, if you're looking at the top of it like this, where each of these little circles is a stitch, I just put 4 stars because those stars are where the straps connect to. So right now I have 2. I'm just going to put one here and here. I'll go ahead and show at least how to do one of those. So just inserting the hook right here because that's about halfway. There's my yarn. Leaving a tail because you weave that in. Okay. Got my first stitch to connect that. Okay, I did 31. I'm gonna see how that lines up. That's about right. I'm gonna add a few more because when I cut the tail and pull it, the tension is gonna kind of shrink up. But again, they don't need to be the exact same length. See, when you pull that, you kind of lose a few stitches anyway. Of course there's dog hair. Just a single dog hair. All right, we're gonna take this end. All right, just going to the inside, and I'm just gonna loop this through a few stitches. And there's no rhyme or reason or like any certain way you have to weave in. You're just trying to kind of get it in there where you can't see it that well, but also know that when the other end is pulled, it's not just gonna slip out, you know, and unravel everything you've made. That's definitely happened. Like, there was a top I made out of granny squares, and it was the first time I had made something like that, and I had started all of my granny squares with just a basic slip knot instead of doing the like wrapping around your fingers with 2 loops type magic circle. Anyway, so after just a couple of wears with that top, the middle of the granny squares started unraveling because the center of the like, it was a top made of granny squares, and the center of several of the squares just started unraveling, because crochet is one of the things where when you pull on that loop, if it's not secure, the whole thing will come undone. But that also means whenever you're making something, if you ever make a mistake and it's like something that you can't just, you know, disguise, you frog it. It's called frogging because when you pull the yarn and it starts unraveling really fast, you have to rip it. You have to rip it to pieces, like rip it, frogging. But the sound that the yarn makes almost kind of sounds like a frog too. Like it's just like I don't know. Hopefully you never have to experience the torture of frogging a blanket that you spent like 10 hours on. But it's definitely happened. I'm just gonna attach this last strap and I'm gonna jump to the end of this. Okay, so we're on the last step. I have the tail yarns of all 4 of my straps. I have my pot made, 4 straps attached. I have my bead ready. I'm just gonna insert that on the end of my crochet hook. And I have, again, all of the tail yarn from the straps. I'm just gonna try to hook that with a hook that's small enough to fit through and pull those through. Then we're gonna pull the tails through. Ooh. Ooh. Knocked over my lotion. And then I'm gonna try to do this with my pliers. This is usually the hardest part. Sometimes you gotta pull in like 1 strand at a time. Ooh, that actually got all of them in one go. Oh, this one. I knew there would be at least one. Well, now I'm just gonna keep trying to fight to get this last strand through. There we go. And this isn't too hard. You just want to get all the straps through, and then you can kind of wiggle them around so that they're not tangled. There we go. And then just hold on to your pot and kind of slide that bead until the tension is the same. Just stretch that yarn. There we go. Put that back into shape. So now this is ready to hang up in a car, like just around your rear view mirror or in your closet or hey, whoa, sorry for that interruption. Anyway, the potted plant is halfway done. This bead can slide up and down, you know. I'm just gonna take my lighter and go over the outside of this to smooth that out. And this only works with acrylic yarns. If you do this to cotton, it will catch fire. But sorry, my dogs are just going nuts over, I think they're picking up trash outside. But anyway, this is ready to go. I'll make another video that shows how to make, you know, a plant that goes inside this.